Think about that one thing you've wanted to change for ages. Maybe it's a stubborn habit that just won't quit, a limiting belief that holds you back, or a part of your personality you wish you could just evolve past. You've probably read countless books, watched endless videos, maybe even tried every self-help trick in the book. For a brief moment, you feel a surge of motivation, a glimpse of the person you could be, the life you could live. But then, almost inevitably, you find yourself right back where you started, wondering why it feels like you're pushing against an invisible wall. It's like your own mind is secretly working against your deepest desires for growth, for happiness, for a better you. This isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a deep, frustrating cycle that can make you doubt yourself. It can make you believe you lack willpower, or that you're somehow different, uniquely unable to change. And that feeling, that sense of being stuck, is incredibly draining. So why does this cycle of ambition and inertia feel so unbreakable? Is it merely a question of willpower, a deficiency in your drive or determination? Or is there a much deeper, more fundamental force at play within your very cognitive structure? What if the real reason you struggle isn't because you're broken or lazy, but because your brain is operating on an ancient default program designed primarily for stability, not necessarily for conscious radical transformation? This isn't a personal failing. It's a universal human experience rooted deeply in how our brains are wired. Today we're going to dive into the surprising science behind why change is so incredibly hard, and why your mind often resists your best efforts, even when those efforts are for your own good. We'll explore the hidden mechanisms that keep you stuck, and how understanding them is not just helpful but absolutely the first most powerful step towards breaking free. Because when you truly grasp this intricate, scientific dance between stability and change, you'll gain the key to finally unlocking true, lasting shifts in your life. This isn't about trying harder in the same old ways. It's about understanding how your mind works so you can finally try smarter. To begin our journey, let's confront a fundamental truth about your brain. Its primary directive isn't to make you happy or to help you achieve your wildest dreams. No, its most ancient and deeply ingrained purpose is much simpler: to keep you alive and to conserve energy. Think of your brain as a brilliant, incredibly complex computer that's been running the same operating system for millions of years. This operating system is remarkably efficient at what it does, but it's not built for constant radical upgrades or revolutionary new features. It's built for stability. It thrives on predictability. It likes things to be as they are. This deep-seated preference for stability is often called homeostasis in biology. It's the tendency of any system, including your body and your brain, to maintain an internal balance, a steady state. When you try to change a deeply ingrained habit, a core belief about yourself, or even a noticeable part of your personality, your brain perceives this as a disruption to its carefully maintained balance. It's like your internal alarm system suddenly goes off shouting, "Warning! Deviation from baseline! Potential danger! Return to normal!" Even if that danger is just trying to wake up an hour earlier to pursue a passion, or speak your mind more often in conversations, or finally tackle that big project, your brain's ancient safety mechanisms are triggered. It prefers the known, even if the known isn't serving you, even if it's painful or frustrating. It prefers that familiar, predictable path over the unknown, which might be better, but carries the risk of uncertainty and requires more energy to navigate. So when you feel that invisible wall, that strong resistance, that powerful pullback to old patterns, it's not a sign of weakness on your part. It's often just your brain doing its job, trying to keep things predictable, safe, and energy efficient. Creating new habits, or breaking old ones, takes a significant amount of mental energy. It forces your brain to literally build new connections, to process new information in new ways, and to operate outside its well-worn grooves. And because energy conservation is always a top priority for your brain, it'll almost always opt for the path of least resistance, which is almost always the old familiar path. This is the core reason why that initial surge of motivation often fizzles out so quickly. Your brain, on a deep, unconscious level, is pushing back for stability, for comfort, for what it knows. Now, let's dig a bit deeper into how this resistance actually plays out in your mind. on a day-to-day level. Psychologists often talk about two main systems that guide our thinking and behavior. You can think of them as System 1 and System 2, or perhaps in a more relatable way, as your fast automatic brain and your slow deliberate brain. Your fast brain is housed largely in the older, more primitive parts of your brain, like the limbic system, which includes the amygdala. This system is lightning quick, intuitive, and driven powerfully by emotions and instincts. It's your autopilot. It handles all the countless things you do without even thinking: walking, breathing, reacting instantly to a sudden loud noise, or automatically reaching for your phone when you hear a notification. Crucially, it's also where your habits live, those ingrained patterns of behavior that run on their own. When you feel a sudden, strong urge to procrastinate on an important task, or to reach for that unhealthy snack you promised yourself you wouldn't eat, or to shy away from a challenging but necessary conversation, that's often your fast brain taking over. It's reacting based on established patterns and what feels safe and comfortable in the moment, even if it's not what you consciously want for your long-term well-being. It prefers instant gratification and familiar, easy outcomes. On the other hand, you have your slow brain. This part is primarily located in your prefrontal cortex, the most evolved part of your brain, right behind your forehead. This is the seat of your conscious thought, your willpower, your careful planning, your logical decision-making, and your amazing ability to think about the future and set long-term goals. When you decide to start a new exercise routine, or to save money diligently, or to learn a new complex skill, that's your slow brain at work. It's the part of you that envisions a better future, that sets ambitious goals, and that tries to make logical, thoughtful, long-term choices. Here's where the struggle, the real internal conflict comes in. Your fast brain is incredibly powerful and incredibly efficient. It's always on, always looking for shortcuts, always defaulting to what's easy and familiar. Your slow brain, while capable of amazing feats of planning and self-control, requires a lot of energy to operate. It tires easily, like a muscle that gets fatigued. Think about it. After a long, stressful day of making tough decisions at work, do you usually have the mental energy to resist that late-night comfort snack? Or do you find yourself easily defaulting to what feels comforting and easy? That's often your slow brain running on empty, and your fast brain happily taking the wheel, steering you towards the path of least resistance. So when you set out to change a behavior or a belief, you're essentially asking your energy-intensive slow brain to consistently override your powerful, efficient, and constantly active fast brain. Your slow brain knows what's good for you in the long run and can lay out a perfect plan, but your fast brain is constantly shouting, "But this feels familiar, this is safe, this is easy. Don't make me think, just do what we always do." This constant internal tug-of-war is a major reason why change feels like such an uphill battle, why it's so exhausting and often leads to giving up. It's not just you versus a bad habit, it's two powerful, distinct parts of your own mind vying for control, pulling you in opposite directions. This brings us to the very physical manifestation of these internal systems, your neural pathways. Imagine your brain as a vast, dense, intricate forest. Every thought you have, every action you take, every emotion you feel, every reaction you give, carves out a specific path through this mental forest. The more you repeat a thought or an action, the more that path gets worn down, becoming wider, smoother, and easier to travel. Eventually, it becomes a well-established superhighway, and these superhighways are your neural pathways. Now, when you've done something the same way for years, whether it's procrastinating on tasks, reacting angrily to criticism, constantly doubting yourself, or biting your nails, you've built incredibly strong, deeply grooved neural pathways for those specific behaviors and thought patterns. It takes very little effort for your brain's electrical signals to zoom down these well-worn paths. They are your automatic responses, your default settings, the comfortable routes your brain prefers. So when you decide to change, when you consciously choose a new behavior or a new way of thinking, you're trying to forge a new path through this forest. You're trying to cut through dense, untrodden undergrowth, to clear new ground, to build a new road where there was none before. This is hard work. It requires conscious effort, repeated attempts, and a lot of mental energy. It feels awkward and clunky at first, like learning to walk again. And because your brain is wired for efficiency, it will always prefer the existing superhighway, the path of least resistance, over the difficult, unpaved new road. This is precisely why you can have the best intentions in the world, feel highly motivated at the start, and still find yourself slipping back into old patterns. It's not a moral failing or a lack of character. It's a neurological preference for efficiency, for what's easy. What's more, these deeply etched pathways, they're constantly reinforced by what we call cognitive biases. Now, these aren't flaws, but rather mental shortcuts our brains take to process information quickly and make decisions faster. Back in ancient times, they were incredibly useful for survival. But in our modern world, they can also distort our perception of reality and make change incredibly difficult, even frustrating. Let's consider a few powerful ones that really impact our ability to change. First, there's confirmation bias. This is our brain's powerful tendency to seek out, interpret, and remember information in a way that just confirms our existing beliefs. So, if you've always believed you're not a morning person or bad with money, your brain will subconsciously filter reality to find evidence that supports those beliefs. You'll vividly remember the times you struggled to wake up early, but you might conveniently forget the mornings you successfully got out of bed. You'll notice your financial slip-ups, but conveniently overlook your small financial victories. This creates a self-fulfilling prophecy, reinforcing those old neural pathways and making it harder to even see evidence that you could change, or that you are truly capable of it. Essentially, your brain is trying to prove itself right about you. Then, there's the status quo bias. This is our inherent, deep-seated preference for things to stay exactly the same, even if change would clearly be beneficial for us. We often choose inaction over action, simply because staying put feels safer, more predictable, and requires less effort. Think about sticking with a challenging job you dislike, or a friendship that constantly drains your energy. It's simply because the thought of looking for something new or having an uncomfortable, honest conversation feels too overwhelming. The status quo, even if it's painful or unfulfilling, is familiar. And for our ancient brain, familiar means safe and requires less energy to process. And perhaps one of the most powerful and pervasive is loss aversion. This bias means that the pain of losing something feels psychologically much stronger and more impactful than the pleasure of gaining something equivalent. When you try to give up a bad habit, say scrolling social media late at night or eating unhealthy comfort food, your brain perceives this as a loss of comfort, entertainment, a way to de-stress, or even just a familiar routine. The potential gain of more sleep, greater productivity, or improved health feels less immediate and less impactful than the immediate loss of that familiar comfort. This can make even truly beneficial changes feel like a significant sacrifice, leading to strong internal resistance and a powerful pullback to the old, comfortable way. These cognitive biases aren't just abstract ideas. They're active, powerful forces in your mind, constantly working beneath your conscious awareness to keep you stuck in your current patterns, even when your conscious mind desperately wants to break free. Beyond just behaviors and thought patterns, the most profound and often overlooked resistance to change often comes from something even deeper: your sense of identity. Who do you believe you are, at your core? Are you a creative person or a logical person, an introvert or an extrovert, a health-conscious individual or someone who struggles with diet, a disciplined person or a procrastinator? Our brains are incredibly protective of our self-concept, of the story we tell ourselves about who we are. We build an internal narrative about ourselves over years, and we cling to it tightly because it provides a sense of coherence, predictability, and safety. When you try to change something fundamental about yourself, something that defines you, it often feels like you're threatening that core identity. If you've always seen yourself as disorganized, and you suddenly try to become a highly organized person, well, there's a deep internal conflict. Part of you might resist fiercely, because becoming organized means letting go of the identity of, quote, the disorganized person. And for your brain, letting go of a familiar identity, even one that doesn't serve you, can feel like a profound loss, almost like a mini death of a familiar self. It triggers that ancient alarm system again, because identity provides a crucial sense of predictability and security in the world. This is why the concept of a comfort zone is so powerful and so difficult to escape. It's not just a physical space. It's primarily a mental and emotional space, defined by what's familiar, predictable, and aligned with your current identity. Stepping outside of it often means doing things that feel intensely uncomfortable, awkward, or even terrifying, precisely because they challenge your established self-image. Your brain interprets this discomfort as a sign of danger, a signal that you're venturing into unsafe territory, urging you back into the comforting familiarity of your comfort zone, where your current identity feels safe and unchallenged. The inner voice that tells you, you can't do this, or this isn't really you, or you're just not built that way, is often your brain protecting that ingrained identity and the perceived safety of your comfort zone. It's a powerful, primal force because it taps into your deepest need for belonging and self-coherence. And if you've tried to change many times before, only to fall back into old patterns, you might have encountered another powerful psychological barrier that quietly defeats many efforts: learned helplessness. Imagine a large, powerful circus elephant that, as a baby, was tied to a small stake in the ground with a simple rope. It tried endlessly to break free, but it couldn't, because, well, it was too small. Even when it grows into a massive, incredibly powerful adult, capable of easily pulling the stake out of the ground with a flick of its trunk, it often won't even try. It has learned from countless past failures that struggling is futile. It has learned to be helpless. We humans, well, we experience a very similar phenomenon. If you've repeatedly tried to lose weight, or stop procrastinating, or be more patient, or stick to a budget, and you've failed time and time again, your brain starts to make a powerful, often unconscious connection. Effort equals failure, or trying hard just leads to disappointment. Over time, this repeated cycle of trying and failing leads to a deep sense of futility. It's a belief that you simply lack the willpower, the inherent ability, or perhaps the genetic makeup to change. Now, this isn't you being weak or flawed. No. It's a predictable psychological outcome of repeated struggle, especially when you don't understand the underlying mechanisms at play. This learned helplessness, it erodes your sense of self-efficacy. That's your fundamental belief in your own ability to succeed in specific situations. When your self-efficacy is low, when you truly believe you can't succeed, well, you're far less likely to even try to change. And that, of course, further cements this cycle of inertia, keeping you stuck. You stop trying because, on some deep unconscious level, your brain has simply convinced you it's pointless. So when you look at all these elements together, your brain's ancient primal drive for stability, the constant tug-of-war between your fast, automatic brain and your slow, deliberate brain, the deep, well-worn grooves of neural pathways, the subtle yet powerful influence of cognitive biases that distort your reality, the protective nature of your identity, and the debilitating effect of learned helplessness, it becomes incredibly clear why changing feels like such a monumental, often impossible task. It's not fundamentally about a lack of willpower. It's about going against millennia of evolutionary programming and deeply ingrained neurological architecture. You're not broken, you're just human, operating with a brain designed first and foremost for survival in a complex, unpredictable world. This isn't a flaw. It's simply how we're built, a legacy of our evolutionary past. But here's the crucial turning point, and why understanding all of this isn't just interesting, but the first, most powerful step towards real, lasting change. Your brain, while programmed for stability, is also incredibly adaptable. This astonishing adaptability is called neuroplasticity. For a long time, scientists believed the adult brain was largely fixed, like a finished building. We now know that's profoundly not true. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself, forming new connections and weakening old ones, literally changing its physical structure based on what you do, what you think, and what you experience. This isn't just abstract science. It's the blueprint for how you can deliberately sculpt your future. This means those deeply grooved superhighways of old habits aren't permanent. They can be rerouted. You can, with conscious, deliberate, and consistent effort, forge brand new paths. You can build new superhighways that lead to the person you truly want to become, to the life you truly want to live. Understanding these scientific realities isn't about giving you an excuse for not changing. Quite the opposite. It's about giving you a precise, actionable map. It's about revealing the hidden forces that have been working against you, often without your awareness, so that you can finally work with your own biology, rather than perpetually fighting against it. This knowledge changes everything about how you approach your goals and your personal growth journey. It takes the heavy burden of blame off your shoulders and places it squarely on understanding the machinery of your own mind. When you realize that the struggle isn't a personal failing, but a predictable response from a brain trying to keep you safe and efficient, a huge weight lifts. Think about the profound relief that comes with this realization. All those times you felt like you lacked discipline, or that others had some secret willpower gene you were missing, well, they can now be reframed. It wasn't you in the way you thought. It was your brain doing its ancient job, responding to a deep, primal call for balance and energy conservation. It was your fast brain, acting on autopilot, overriding your slower, more deliberate intentions. It was those deeply set neural pathways pulling you back to what was easy and familiar. This knowledge allows for a level of self-compassion that is often missing from the self-help journey. You've been fighting an invisible opponent, and now finally you have a name for it. And once you name it, once you understand it, you can start to strategize against it effectively. This shift in perspective, it's truly empowering. When you know that your brain defaults to stability, you can anticipate resistance. You can prepare for it, rather than being surprised, confused, and discouraged when it inevitably shows up. Instead of seeing a lapse as a sign of weakness, you'd see it as your brain trying to pull you back to the familiar. And then, you can gently, patiently redirect it back to the new path. When you understand the constant fight between your fast and slow brain, you can create smart strategies to empower your slow brain, making its demanding job easier. This means, well, setting up your environment for success, making important decisions when your slow brain is fresh and energized, and building small, consistent habits that don't overwhelm your energy-hungry prefrontal cortex. And when you see how neural pathways work, you understand that consistency, not brute force, is really the key to building new habits. I mean, you wouldn't expect a single walk through a dense forest to just create a paved road, right? No. Gradually wearing down the earth, removing obstacles, laying down gravel, and eventually asphalt. Your new habits? They're exactly the same. Each repetition, no matter how small or how imperfect, is another stroke of the shovel, another layer of pavement on that new mental superhighway. It's about being patient with yourself, celebrating tiny victories, and understanding that every effort, even if imperfect, is contributing to the new, stronger path you're building. And crucially, when you grasp the profound power of identity, you realize that true, lasting change often begins with changing who you believe you are deep down. So instead of just doing new things, try to start being the person who does those things. For example, if you want to be a morning person, don't just try to wake up early. Instead, start telling yourself, I am a morning person, that's who I am now. This isn't just positive thinking, by the way. It's a powerful way to nudge your brain into aligning your identity with your desired behavior, making the internal resistance less fierce, and making the new behaviors feel more natural. It really means consciously choosing the story you tell yourself about who you are, knowing that your brain will strive to make that story your reality. This knowledge doesn't just explain why you struggle. It provides the first critical, scientifically backed tools for breaking free. It shifts the blame from a perceived personal failing to a universal biological truth. It turns the frustrating mystery of, why can't I change, into a solvable problem, a challenge you can approach with wisdom. It tells you that the key isn't to try harder in the same old, often ineffective ways, but to try smarter by leveraging the very mechanisms that have kept you stuck. You are not destined to repeat the same cycles forever. The invisible wall you've been pushing against is not unbreakable. It simply required a new understanding of how to dismantle it, piece by scientific piece. And now, you have that understanding. So the next time you feel that familiar pullback to old patterns, that urge to revert to what's easy and known, remember this video. Remember that it's your brain, working on its ancient primal program, but a program you now understand. The choice is yours. Will you continue to be frustrated by this invisible wall, feeling like you lack willpower? Or will you use this newfound understanding to finally try smarter, to build those new pathways, and to consciously become the person you know you can be? This journey of profound transformation is not a sprint. It's a marathon of conscious effort, consistent small actions, and deep self-awareness. But now, you have a better map and a clearer understanding of the terrain. Now, I want to hear from you. After learning about the science behind why change is so hard, what's one specific belief or habit in your own life that you now see in a new light? Which of these concepts, the fast brain versus slow brain, neural pathways, cognitive biases, the power of identity, or learned helplessness, resonated most deeply with your own struggles? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's start a conversation and build a community around understanding our minds better together. If you found this deep dive into the science of mindset shifts helpful, and you want to keep exploring how understanding our minds, our biology, and the timeless wisdom of philosophy can help us live more intentional and fulfilling lives, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started on this journey of unlocking profound insights to help you navigate the complexities of life and truly thrive. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thank you for watching. And remember, the journey of true, lasting change begins with understanding.